isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. Time for round 7 of V8SCOPS supports. It is a V8SCOPS weekend and you know what that means. Supports night on Friday. The GTC and the V8s taking to the greatest racetrack in Brazil, the Autodrome Jose Carlos Paz in Sao Paulo, Brazil. This is going to be a very interesting night of racing indeed. GT4 and TCR first up in a multi-class race around this twisting and diving racetrack in the biggest city in Brazil. To bring it to you all live here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch and Kick, it's me, Reese Gardner. Dean Hunt is alongside me in the comms box. Jay Kennedy behind the scenes, handling production and bringing you these live pictures. Well, Dean, been looking forward to this one for a while. I always love Interlagos. It always throws up something exciting.
Oh yeah, for sure, Reese. You mentioned that this is the best track in Brazil. I would argue that this is one of the best tracks in iRacing. It's such a fantastic circuit, plenty of opportunities to pass, but it's also very technical as well, especially in the midsection. So, prove a big challenge for a lot of our drivers in both different classes tonight for the GTCs, and then especially I think in the V8s.
Absolutely. Interlagos literally means between lakes, and this development that the track was built in inspired by the Interlaken area in Switzerland. It was built in the 1930s, this circuit, and opened in 1940 with a much longer layout than we are running today. But despite the fact it's been through a few changes over the years, this track has lost none of its character, Dean. It's got some heavy braking zones indeed, particularly at turn 1 and through the hairpin section, all the way through Pinheirinho, all the way to Bico de Pato, Junção another passing opportunity, as well as to Cida de Lago at turn 4. But everywhere else, the track is incredibly high speed.
Yeah, that's right, Reese. I think, like I said before, especially the midsection, very, very technical. Coming up and down the hill a lot as well. The elevation changes can make for some interesting moments. A lot of the weight shifting on these cars can really throw them off and help you set up some moves or defend your position either way. Especially look at turn 4 and turn 5 as well. I think that's a bit of a tricky one where we see a lot of moves attempted and sometimes come off pretty poorly for the car on the outside. So I think we better keep an eye out for that one. But yeah, definitely lots of action coming up.
Absolutely. This is the format for tonight. 15 minutes and 20 minutes are our two races tonight. There's no inverts, there's no mandatory pit stops, nothing like that. It's just straight up sprints all the way to the end. Of course, the crew at AOG are in the steward's booth providing live race control and manual safety cars if needed. In GT4, Luke Swan has been the form man for 9.5 Sim Sports. He's nearly 100 points now ahead of Russell Pepperell in the Kiwi Sim Racing Mercedes. The likes of Alex Schuler and Matthew Pignata, as well as Nick Lacassis, always very fast, but they haven't quite gotten the points total that Luke Swan has been able to.
Yeah, Reese, that's right. And the top is still relatively tight, but yeah, Swan just pulling away a little bit there. Michael, going over to the TCR standings now. Speaking of dominance, Hobbo is up ahead by 75 points at the moment, so he is carrying that class at the moment. Melqueen also doing really well for a Synergy Sim Racing 1-2 there. A lot of pace in the top end of the TCR series, but we know that anything can really happen in that class. And Robbie Bradbury and Garen Batten, they're ready to take advantage of that from P3 and P4 in the championship.
Yeah, both for Pacific Esports Racing as well. Robert Henry for Kiwi Sim Racing. He's certainly had the pace, but not always the luck. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do from here. Nice cool conditions in Sao Paulo for today. 21 degrees Celsius, both air and track, and barely any wind at all. It is prime conditions for racing. And speaking of racing, we are about to get started for race 1. Here's the grid. Luke Swan has qualified on pole position. Not much surprise there, but a great performance from Matthew Pignata to put the Alfa Venturi Mercedes on the front row as well. Behind them, Nick Lacassis and Simon Mazzomo making one of his first starts in the series for 9.5 Sim Sports. It's the Porsche Cayman show at the top of the grid. Russell Pepperell and Mazzomo's teammate Daniel Benefield on the third row of the grid. Rob Crisdale is going to start out as 7th alongside Orbit Motorsports' Taylor Oakes, one of the only McLarens left in the field now after Aidan Cale switched from GT4 to TCR. Ryan Green and Peter Pavlovich round out the top 10. Our 11th and final GT4 to set a time in qualifying is Linton Wills, with Thomas Foster starting 12th in that class. Braden O'Loughlin as well in the Frog Leap Juice Racing Mercedes, making it 13 GT4s in the server.
Yeah, and it's a Synergy Sim Racing 1-2 between Brenton Hobson and Damon Mulqueen in the TCR class. As we said before, they're dominating the series so far. My teammate Hamish Clellan coming on P3, and Aidan Cale for the Race on Oz in P4 at the moment. Scott Hassler, another teammate of mine, and Brandon Groach, again, P5 and 6. The boys are bringing it up in the middle there. Garen Batten for Pacific Esports, and Doug Gowans for Velocity Sim Lab 7 and 8th. Stephen Banks, Pacific Esports, and Brady Baldwin from Synergy 9 and 10. And Edward Shelley and Scott Griffiths to round out the 12-car grid for the TCRs.
Yeah, solid turnout for both classes here tonight, and the grid timer is just about to end. Here we go. The safety car about to pull away from the start of the grid here, the dummy grid that's been set up on the entry into the hairpin section. Interlagos being one of those tracks on iRacing that allows you to do a short formation lap, so we won't have to go all the way around to get things started here. But a very good section of the circuit to take a slow tour through, just to see the elevation change that's on hand here. There's rises and dips all the way through this section, and the curbs are huge, and especially in the TCRs, you need to use them for fast times.
That's right, yeah, but you got to be really careful you don't take too much, of course. You can really unsettle the car. If you take a look out your left window at the moment of the tour bus, you can see the elevation change between the main straight and this section. Like you said, Reese, is massive, but they're going back downhill again. So this is exactly what we're talking about. The elevation changes are a huge factor here, and can be a real difference maker, I think, with the way you want to position your car. Lachlan is having some technical difficulties, perhaps. Yep, wheel disconnection. Just snapped to the left, so that's unfortunate for him.
Yeah, he'll have to pull back into the pits from there and not take the start. That's a real shame for Braden O'Loughlin in the number 97. But we are now on the start-finish stretch through Subida dos Boxes, this flat-out left bend that you make your way through to pit entry, which is a little bit different in the real world now. This still has the old pit entry, which is essentially the apex of the final real corner at Interlagos. Pace car in, and Luke Swan will control the start here from the front. The green flag flies, And we are racing at Interlagos. Good jump from Swan, but it looks like Pignata didn't quite get the memo about the green flag. 3 wide with Nick Lacassis and Simon Mazzomo for second on the way into the first turn. But a clean start from our GT4 field as the TCRs are already 3 wide as well.
Well, Reece, they're not wasting any time getting stuck into it. 3 wide into turn 1 for both classes. We see a couple of the Frog guys tripping over each other, but they've seen them sorted that out now. And we got an Alpha Venturi coming out of the pits as well at the same time.
Looks like O'Loughlin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's Wills.
Oh, is it?
The pits. Yep.
Oh.
Wills joining the back of the pack, so I didn't see that coming, but they're underway now. The TCRs seem to have spread out quite a lot already, though. Perhaps coming out of the pits has affected them.
Yeah, potentially. A GT4 on the inside up to at the end of the Reta Oposta is certainly not a nice thing to see if you're a TCR. But they're just trying to work themselves out here. But oh dear, the number 77 has gone around there. Stephen Banks in the wall, and it looks like another car potentially getting involved with that as well. Scott Griffiths. Was involved with him there. Actually, no, it was Brandon Groach who we also saw in the runoff area there. So big dramas in the TCR class already. And it looks like one of that's Pavlovich, I think, that was spinning in the rear of the camera there in the GT4 class. The TCR's having to work their way past him. He's off the circuit. No further dramas there. But, man, that's really unfortunate for Pavlovich.
Yeah, a couple of Pacific Esports cars having some dramas at the start, but look at that. The GT4s, they're all in a nice little line here. They've all sort of figured out their pecking order at the moment, but imagine Pignata's just biding his time here to see when he can potentially make a move on Luke Swan. But look at the gaggle of TCRs coming through with that GT4 trying to lap them, as well as Batten's trying to get around the outside of Hassler into turn 1. Got the inside of turn 2 now. See if he can hold on to that. But he can't, and Hassler stays ahead of that one.
Yeah, you can make a move around the outside of turn 1, but you got to make sure that you're at least a nose ahead coming into turn 2. Otherwise, you'll see exactly what just happened to Garen Batten there. Now he's in trouble versus Douglas Gowans in the Velocity Sim Lab Hyundai Veloster. Around the outside of turn 4 they come, and it looks like Gowans just has the move complete here. Needs to get ready for Ferradura though. There's double apex right-hander. He is ahead on the way in. Garen Batten will have to yield for the time being, and that'll give another chance to Edward Shelley to try and make some moves. So Garen Batten, one of the bigger losers on that lap, but regardless, still right in the fight. Mulqueen currently sitting behind Aidan Kale, who has moved from GT4 to TCR for this round. We saw him in a McLaren at the opening rounds of the season, but didn't seem to find much success, so he's decided to change to the Hyundai Elantra, and he is making a very good case for himself here.
Yeah, he started really well, showing that he's had some practice in that car. So looking at Mazzomo here, looking to set up a move on Pignata potentially. He's getting very close under braking, almost makes contact, gets it in the inside, but pulls out of it because it could have got pretty ugly pretty quickly. But I think Mazzomo, he's just set the fastest lap of the race so far. He is going to get a little bit impatient shortly with Pignata. I think there might be a little pace difference on the race trim there.
Yeah, it seems like the Mercedes has taken a little bit longer to get up to pace than the Porsche Cayman is. It will be interesting to see how that checks out towards the end of the race. These are only short sprints here. The Mercedes a bit more of a lumbering beast than the Porsche Cayman. And speaking of different cars, 2 McLarens in the field, and Nick Lacassis versus Rob Crisdale here for 6th spot. Crisdale trying his best around the outside of Ferradura to get the move done. Lacassis will hold strong, at least through the right-hander. The left, a bit more of an inside line for Crisdale, but Lacassis can get on the power slightly earlier and maintain the position. Those 2 McLarens are going to be licking their lips here of Ryan Green and Taylor Oakes. They have got a big battle on their hands here, and it looks like Green has managed to hold off Oakes through the hairpin as well. This is a fantastic battle. As race controls announced, the race start is under investigation. Up the inside goes Crisdale with a little bit of hip and shoulder on Lacassis. Still hasn't been able to get the move done.
Yeah, these guys are racing each other hard, but respectfully. It's been really good to watch so far. Good good racing from both of them. They're still side by side. Lacassa's potentially wanting to get a little bump draft boost from behind maybe, but as we've seen, Ryan Green coming out from the outside in that Alpha Venturi 111 machine. So,
oh no! Chrisdale gives Lacassas a tag in turn 1 and sends him off the circuit, and he's also tagged Ryan Green as well on the way through turn 2. I think that was more of a case of Green turning in on Chrisdale, to be fair, but I don't think Lacassas is going to be too happy with how that's worked out.
No, he definitely isn't. Spoke too soon, Reese. Maybe a bit of a commentator's curse. They were racing each other very cleanly, but potentially the third car in the mix just really stirred them up a little bit. But I think Lacassas is requesting a tow at the moment. As we cut to the replay here, so coming down the main straight. A bit of a pack of, almost a pack of 4 there. Yeah.
Chrisdale just too deep, I think.
Yeah, just couldn't get it turned in early enough, and you can see after the contact how deep he ran, and then Green just turning across a little bit, potentially expecting Chrisdale to have a little bit less pace through that corner and maybe being able to get the rear across the nose, but miscalculation there, and he's ended up in the fence too.
Yeah, Green was ahead of Chrisdale at the point of contact, so I think fault for that incident, both incidents in fact, will go to Chrisdale, but we'll leave that to race control to ultimately decide. In any case, the contact between Stephen Banks and Scott Griffiths on lap 1 has been deemed no further action. Looks like a racing incident between them. Meanwhile, the front of the GT4 field certainly racing hard too. There's a big move. Daniel Benefield up the inside of his teammate Simon Mazzomo, and now piling the pressure on Matthew Pignata, who's found himself in a triple layer 9.5 sandwich.
Oh yeah, for sure. Pignata's looking forward and looking back here. He's not in the best place he can be on the racetrack, but you know what? He's still in P2, so I'm sure he'll be stoked with that. But yeah, looking potentially, Swan hasn't really pulled away like we potentially thought he might have. And Chrisdale finding himself in more action here with it's that Taylor Oakes, behind him in that 33 McLaren. Looking to potentially make a move on Chrisdale, but I believe he is probably due for a penalty anyway, so might be a bit of a moot point at this time.
You just saw flashing up on the screen that Brady Baldwin's been given a 5-second time penalty by race control for his race start procedure. And looking back at the race start for the TCRs, easy to see why. He got on the power, I think just a little confused by the checkup, and he ended up passing a couple of cars before they crossed the start-finish line, which is a big no-no. So, yeah, Baldwin's going to have to deal with that at some point in the race, or get that time added to his race time. And I mean, there's not much of a gap further back here. If we add 5 seconds to Baldwin's time now, it's going to put him down in 9th spot, even behind Peter Pavlovich's GT4. This is a great battle that we're seeing at the moment. All of these guys trying to find their way past Baldwin. Aidan Kale looks like he's been passed by Baldwin at some point, and now having to fight his way back into the top 4.
Yeah, but look at this battle pack here, Reese. It's so tight, like you said. Getting that penalty's dropped him right back to P9 as it stands at the moment. Now, we've got live pictures here of both leading packs of each class. A lot of places to look at the moment. A lot of the cars at the moment in the straight line. As we see one getting offline there, is that Kale trying to make a move, and Hassler making contact with Kale, getting a little bit squirrely and losing his spot out of it, maybe even 2. A little bit of dawdling, and is not straight to TCR tonight. And Hassler's dropping back even further. He might lose another position.
Brilliant job by Douglas Gowans and the Velociter to thread the needle there. This is going to give a chance to Edward Shelley and Garen Batten potentially. Shelley tries to make it 3 wide into Desina Del Lago. Sorry for the hiccups. That's made my heart jump into my throat, this fighting. And they have absolutely let Brady Baldwin and Aidan Kale get away from them now. Unsuccessful so far has been Hasler to try and get back past Gowans, and it looks like the Pacific Esports Racing drivers very wisely backing out of that. They don't want any part of it, but it looks like they're going to have to make way for Peter Pavlovich pretty soon here as the battle continues up the front of the pack. This is the front of the pack now. Great exit from Hasler. He'll have the inside for the hairpin, but Gowan's a little more aggressive on the brakes.
Yeah, and we're cutting to the GT4s as well as we're making a move for P2. That's Daniel Benefield getting past Pignata. He's still in that sandwich we talked about before, but in that 9-5 sandwich. But the Alpha Venturi losing another spot there and potentially looking at getting it back here. But Benefield defending hard, and Luke Swan coming over to give his teammate a bit of a tow as well. I don't know when Luke races. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, certainly. Back up the inside of Benefield goes Pignata and forces Benefield wide coming out of Interlagos, and Benefield turns Pignata coming out of the corner. That's going to be something race control will look at for sure. That's not ideal at all. Benefield is a hard racer. We know he is, but that might have gone a bit overboard there. There's news of a drive-through penalty for Crisdale for the contact with Lacassis.
Yep, we saw that one coming, for the drive-through for Crisdale, but that's really unfortunate for Pignata. He was straight on the radio as soon as he got that car back on track to get on to race control, as expected. He's obviously not going to be too happy about that. I suppose that's one way to look after your teammates, but definitely not the right way to do it.
Yeah, just looked like, you know, they were very close on the exit. Benefield was just keeping his foot in it, trying to keep the position, but ended up running into the back of Pignata there at the point where they were turning. Well, we'll leave that behind for now. Keep an eye on Scott Hasler here. Oh, easy does it. He's actually falling down the order a bit now. Pavlovich has managed to get through on this TCR pack. Batten able to get by Hasler as well, as now it looks like Crisdale will come in to serve his drive-through penalty as Pignata has found his way back past Daniel Benefield. That looks to me like a redress of position.
Yeah, I think so. He did lose a lot of pace when he had to get back on track. So definitely, I think that was a redress, and the gap between the cars in front now as well. So good sportsmanship there from Benefield, and they're back into it again, not wasting any time after the redress. Benefield getting right back through. I wonder if Pignata has some damage on that Alpha Venturi Mercedes, but he's on the inside here, and nice even run through the corner at the moment, but he gets it done. Pignata down the inside again. These guys are inseparable door to door at the moment. Still on the inside, maybe a little nose in, but the 44.45 of Pignata keeps it ahead of Daniel Benefield.
Yeah, good battle now as Benefield fires it up the inside again. He's been very aggressive on the brakes in this race so far, and Pignata, I don't think, is having a bit of it as he's now trying to find another way past. Here we go. Oh, there we go. Pignata gets turned around as he tries to get the move done on Benefield again, and careful on the re-entry for Pignata, almost cleaning up Taylor Oakes there. Brady Baldwin, meanwhile, versus Aiden Kale. Baldwin still holding on to 4th spot. I tell you what, Hamish Cleland is having a fantastic race in the TCRs at the moment. In 2nd place, we've barely given him any airtime, but he's right up there with the synergy duo of Hobbo and Damon Mulqueen. But we'll keep our eyes peeled on 4th place for the time being. Now they're about to encounter Peter Pavlovich.
As we cut to the replay here to see what happened between Pignata and Benefield, he sticks a nose in. He is quite a long way aside, but I'm not sure he was making that apex. He was coming pretty hot. It's maybe one of those self-penalising ones. And the replay didn't catch it, but we caught it on the live feed that it was very close to a rejoining issue there. Barney's waving the white flag, and race control come in for a 5-second penalty for Daniel Benefield.
No, Mizomo gets turned around by Pepperell there. Pepperell will lift off and try to redress the position there, but that's a big move for second place ultimately. Daniel Benefield will get up into second place, but with 5 seconds to make up, it'll certainly be difficult for him to maintain that. Oh my God, what an incredible race we've seen so far. Plenty of drama. It looks like Mazomo just tipped it into the slide himself, and Pepperell could do nothing to avoid it. Well, it is white flag indeed, and Luke Swan is going to come across the line for a dominant victory, extending his championship lead in race 1 of GTC here at Interlagos. He is a long way ahead of the rest of the field. Benefield will cross the line in second. Mazomo and Pepperell still trying to fight it out to the line, but it's only going to be a tenth or so in between them. Taylor Oakes taking advantage of all of that drama up the front and getting himself 5th place for his troubles. Meanwhile, we barely saw him since the start. Brenton Hobson, he's been the man to beat in the TCR class this season. That Synergy Sim Racing Audi is dialed in, and he'll take a well-deserved victory to add to the numerous ones he's had already.
Another dominant performance there from Hobbo. The TCR class was definitely not without its drama, and that's coming right to a head here as Baldwin and Kale setting up for a photo finish potentially, but I think Baldwin's got it done by about a car length. But really tight racing all the way through the field, Reese, and can't wait to see it all again in race 2.
Yeah, we'll get 5 more minutes for our troubles. So here we go then, as everyone's crossed the line. Time for the unofficial results. Daniel Benefield crossing the line in second behind Luke Swan. Simon Mazomo completing the top 3. And Pepperell and Oakes rounding out the top 5. With Benefield's 5-second penalty, that'll put him ultimately, I think, just ahead of Matthew Pignata, who crosses the line in 6th place. Rob Crisdale in 7th with that drive-through penalty. Ryan Green, Linton Wills and Peter Pavlovich round out our 10 GT4s that finished the race. Actually, Braden O'Loughlin made it out there as well. Good to see that he managed to work his way back onto the track. Lacassis retiring, Foster not taken to the start.
Yeah, and another, like we said, dominant performance from Brenton Hobson in that Synergy Sim Racing car. 6 seconds ahead of Hamish Clellan in P2. Damon Mulqueen for Synergy Sim Racing, almost 10 seconds behind. I'm expecting him to potentially get back up onto that second step in race 2. Brady Baldwin, his teammate, coming in at P4. Aidan Cow has originally made the switch over to TCRs in P5. Doug Gowans, P6 at the moment. Garen Batten finishing in P7, not without a bit of drama. Scott Hassler dropped a few spots to finish in P8. Edward Shelley also getting in a little bit of strife, finishing in P9. And Scott Griffiths rounding out our top 10. Stephen Banks, we saw him get turned on the first lap, but managed to crawl back to only 30 seconds off the lead. Brandon Groach DNFing, unfortunately, in P12.
Yeah, interesting to see that for Brandon Groach. He escaped back to the pits and then his connection dropped, so maybe he had further dramas outside of what happened to him on lap 1. But yeah, regardless, we haven't got very long to go until we are into the feature race for the GTC. 20 minutes or 13 laps, whichever comes first. Yeah, just talking briefly about the incident between Daniel Benefield and Matthew Pignata. I get the feeling Pignata sending it up the inside of Benefield at Junsao like he did was a case of I'll race you how you race me from Pignata's perspective, because Benefield was being very aggressive with his dives.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case, and we've all been there as race drivers. You know, one guy does something to you and the competitive beast inside just wants to come out and do it right back. So we definitely see that quite a lot. Obviously, it's great to have race control live on hand to sort these debacles out. Hopefully, both drivers have maybe cooled off a little bit since then, and maybe drive a little bit more safe and dare I say it, a little bit more intelligently in this race, and try and keep themselves out of a bit of trouble to keep the points up high.
Indeed. Well, no need to go through the grid for this because it's the finishing order of the first race. How they finished is how they're going to start in this second race of the night. Once again, it's a sprint, 20 minutes with no compulsory pit stops from what I can see. It's certainly going to be a fun one indeed. Track temperature not rising all that much, so we're going to get very similar conditions to what we saw in race 1.
Yeah, normally we see a lot of hot tracks in Interlagos, but the admins have been a little bit kinder and made it a little bit cooler tonight for the guys. But one thing to note, there is a couple of GT4s embedded, I think, in the TCR field at the moment, so they'll be trying to make their way through. I think Rob Crisdale was one of those after receiving that penalty in the first race. Maybe? No, I could be wrong. Apologies. But I did see one behind there anyway, so I feel like that's a bit of a tough task at this track.
Yeah, that'd be Pavlovich, who's starting behind the TCR top 3. But looks like he is being allowed to take his position with the other GT4s. And the same goes for Braden O'Loughlin, who will actually get the chance to cross the line with the rest of them. Lukasas being held behind the TCRs at the moment. So I don't know if there's been a miscommunication somewhere or the like, but regardless, we shall see our GT4s take the start very shortly. Luke Swan, Daniel Benefield and Simon Mazzomo, your top 3 for 9.5 Sim Sports. Russell Pepperell on the outside looking in. Matthew Pignata will want to find some redemption from what happened to him in race 1, and can't count out Taylor Oakes in the Orbit Motorsport McLaren. Keep an eye on the purple machine, the purple and yellow mid-engined car in the midst of his fellow mid-engined Caymans and front-engined Mercedes. In comes the pace car, and they're already away at the front of the GT4 field. Luke Swan takes the green flag, and we are racing at Interlagos again in the GTC. You see Pignata covering off the advance from Oakes there into the first turn as the TCRs now get their start underway. Once again, it's looking like a pretty aggressive start from Brady Baldwin, but I think he timed that pretty well. Wasn't past Hamish Cleland before they got to the start-finish line, and away we go, already up into second for Baldwin.
Wow, what a start for Brady Baldwin. He timed that really well. Obviously got that wrong in the first race, but he's learnt from his mistakes. So he's taken off to a really good start here. The TCR field is really tight at the moment. Mulqueen looking up the inside of Cleland. Doesn't have the overlap, so lets him have it. But hopefully Cleland can keep his result up from last race. He's obviously lost that position to Brady Baldwin already, but he had a great finish in race 1. He's looking to continue that as Crisdale is on the infield already. That's going from bad to worse for him tonight.
Yeah, not ideal for Rob Crisdale, and looking back at it, he just lost it by himself through Ferradura. That's a real shame. So lap 1 not going well. Let's see about the other 12 potentially that we're going to see in this race. The 9.5-1-2-3 continues as the Alpha Venturi McLaren of Ryan Green has turned, and it looks like his fellow Alpha Venturi car of Linton Wills has turned around as well. That looked a bit awkward there. It just looks to me like Wills lost it by himself, and I think Green might have done the same thing.
Yeah, it looked like that way in the live pictures in the background. Yep, easily done there. They've both done the same thing.
Synchronized spin.
Yeah, the teammates in the synchronized spinning. The Olympics coming up. I don't know if that's an event though, but yeah, that's pretty easily done there on cold tyres. As we've got 4 cars here in the pack at the moment. Russell Pepper will bring out the rear. Mazzomo, Benefield and Swan in front of him. And they're all sort of trying to help each other out. The teammates up the front and trying to hold out Pepper in that Kiwi Sim Racing Mercedes.
Yep, lots of curb usage on the exit of Descida Lago. That's going to make Daniel Benefield fall to 3rd spot. Pepperell remaining in 4th, but he's under pressure from his fellow Mercedes. Matthew Pignata trying around the outside. Bit of contact there, and Daniel Benefield's been sent off the circuit. He does recover, but man, that looked like either a big snap or maybe just a little tap from Pepperell or Pignata.
Either one can really unsettle the car there. Hopefully there was no contact, because we want to see less penalties in this race, hopefully. Let the guys sort it out on track, but yeah, maybe Pignata, if he did make contact, he might be carrying on from the last race with Benefield. So we'll see here, comes, yeah, it looks like he just snapped on his own.
Yeah, actually. Okay. No contact there. Interesting to see. I think, well, it's something that we've seen a couple of times before, isn't it, in the GT4s? You come into Ferradura, it's a very fast corner, and once the rear end slides just a tiny bit, the problem seems to compound. And we've seen, some solid spins so far tonight from that. It was well recovered from Benefield, but he's fallen to the tail end of the top 6 now. Lacassis up behind, and Lacassis looking very quick, so we'll see how this battling helps him out. Benefield trying up the inside of Oaks, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, Benefield just trying to get the overlap there, but couldn't quite get it done. That complex between turn 1 and 2. And like you said, you can get it up around the outside and give yourself the inside for turn 2. Oh, Cleland putting his wheels on the grass, and can he hold on to it? Yes, he can. What a save. I don't think he'll end up with a slowdown or anything, but that could have been a lot worse. And he could have gone right into Brady Baldwin there, a little bit out of control, but he's done really well to gather that up. He might need to change a jock soon, but that was pretty impressive. That's 2 saves we've seen so far that have been really well done.
Yeah, absolutely. And, all of this fighting that we're seeing in the TCR pack is helping out Brenton Hobson, who is barely in the frame now. He's gotten himself up to a lovely little lead in the Synergy Sim Racing Audi, 1.8 seconds to be exact, as the battle of the Mercedes in the GT4 class continues. Pepperell keeping Pignata behind for a corner more, but all of this fighting is not benefiting them. They need to try and catch up to Mazomo and Swan, and as you can see, Pepperell already has a bit of damage to his front end. I think something happened that we missed.
Yeah, I mean, they were all nose to tail for a while there, so maybe it was a little bit of contact at some point. Not quite enough maybe to offset someone, but Pignata all over the outside of him at the moment. He's got the run on him down the main drag here. They're leaving a fair bit of space between each other. Pepperell squeezing him at the end of the braking zone there. Really good racecraft from Pepperell. He might be a little bit down on the top end speed with that front damage, but he's showing that in the corners so far that he can keep his car up to pace. Meanwhile, Swan and Mazomo just slightly pulling away here. Here's the damage. Little kiss from the Mercedes, perhaps?
Yeah, well, that's in the rear of Pepperell, though. His front bumper is dented, so that's something else that's gone on there, and probably quite significant as well. Regardless, we're seeing that Pignata has a great edge over him in the twisties, but is able to get a very nice run on the straights as Pepperell. Meanwhile, fighting continuing in the TCR pack. Oh, Hamish Cleland, he just kept Damon Mulqueen behind him, and there's been a bit of drama further back in TCR. Scott Hasler going for a slide, and off the circuit goes Edward Shelley.
Oh no, that's not good. Shelley, he kept his nose fairly clean in the first race.
No! Oh no! Douglas Gowans sent off the track and losing his bumper. It seems that was further contact with Aidan Cale.
Oh blimey. Poor Cowans, he's, that's a bit unlucky for him, but that battle pack was looking quite fierce, and, these cars running in such tight, oh, look at that damage on the back end. I wonder if he has a ring ball for that. We cut to the replay here. He's trying to get up around the outside. He gets it, keeps it in there. He's moving across a little bit, coming into the next corner. Yeah, just a little bit of contact on the rear quarter panel. That's enough to send these cars doing exactly that. That's almost the weak spot on the TCRs, is the rear quarter panel for the old pit maneuver.
Yeah, big shame. And I think from Cale's perspective, he certainly was looking to turn in for Ferradura, but maybe a little too aggressively. Saw some slight technical issues for Luke Swan there at the front of the GT4 field, so maybe keep an eye on that. He and Mazomo, though, will keep their eyes peeled behind, because Pignata is coming. He is past Pepperell now, and Daniel Benefield's found his way past Taylor Oaks, as I think we saw before we cut to the TCR pack and the incident they had. But now, the question is, does Pignata have the pace to jet ahead and catch up to the 9.5 Porsches? He's going to have more pressure from behind as well, because look, textbook move again from Daniel Benefield. Oh, and it looks like he might have almost caught the rear end of Pignata there as well.
These guys are inseparable, Reece. They can't get enough of each other. But Pignata's got to try and get ahead here and hope that Pepperell puts up a really good fight against Benefield, because that's the last thing he needs, is to engage in another battle if he wants to catch up to Simon Mazzomo in P2 at the moment. He's probably just outside the draft range, maybe getting a small benefit. But Swan and Mazzomo here are going to be working together to try and pull away from Pignata. Mazzomo's currently got the fastest lap at the moment. And yeah, look to see those two working together, as that Russell Pepperell's car definitely has quite a bit of damage on it on the front end as well. So it'll be interesting to watch Benefield try and get past him.
Here we go then. Slipstream for Daniel Benefield, not taking full advantage of it, but maybe just peeking out a little bit to sight his way into the next corner. Bit too far back to make a move. So they'll continue on as they are for the next few corners at least. Up to Ferradura. This is where we're starting to see that Pepperell has the edge over Pignata, at least, but whether Benefield has the edge over Pepperell is another matter entirely. These guys all fighting for the final spot on the podium in GT4, and it seems to me like they're not able to catch up to Swan and Mazzomo, who were the only cars in the 1 minute 38 second bracket on the last lap, as Hamish Cleland and Brady Baldwin are side by side for P2 in TCR. They bang wheels. Baldwin gets sent off the track, recovered nicely. Damon Mulqueen's going to say thanks, mate, and try and move on through on his teammate. Hamish Cleland is certainly setting the timing screens and the track alight in this class.
Yeah, he's having a good one so far. He did lose that initial position to Brady Baldwin off the start. I think he lost another one at some point, but he's crawled his way back up to P2 again. I did hear that Baldwin jumped straight on the radio after that contact, so we'll see what happens there. Might be good to get a little replay of that if we get a chance, but they were very close, and a little bump sent him off the side a little bit.
And there's Daniel Benefield working his way past Russell Pepperell at the first turn, as Pignata just set the fastest lap of the race. My goodness, that is fantastic pace from Matthew Pignata. I gotta say, this is looking like an interesting comeback from Pignata if he can do that. This is another view of the contact between Cleland and Baldwin. So Cleland trying around the outside of Desita de Lago, and they make their way out of the corner. Baldwin tries to... interesting. Well, actually, Baldwin calling that into race control, I don't know if race control are going to do anything about that, because Cleland was holding his line. It was Baldwin that moved into him from that angle.
Yeah, a little bit of case of Baldwin saying, I'm not going to give you the preferred line, and I guess Cleland was thinking that he might have moved over at the same time. I'm not 100% sure on that one. That's a tricky one. That's where I'm glad I'm not working in race control anymore. It's a bit of a head scratcher, I think.
Yeah, potentially. Well, now the battle for third will spice up ever more, because once again, Daniel Benefield trying to get past Matthew Pignata. Will he be able to do it without causing an incident this time is the big question. And I guess same goes for Pignata on Benefield if he does get past. This is going to be an interesting fight, as the laps are now on the chart, and Benefield was the fastest car in the GT4 class that past lap, 0.4 of a second faster than Pignata. That's some stonking pace there from the 9.5.
Yeah, he's put some hot laps down, but Benefield sitting in that draft at the moment. He might be gaining a little bit of time, as we see that incident between Baldwin and Cleland has been listed as a racing incident, which I think is pretty fair. No harm, no foul. But Benefield seems to be getting a little bit closer every time, and Lacassis and Oakes battling into turn 4 and into turn 5, Reece.
Yeah, looks like Nick Lacassis, he was struggling to try and catch up to all of these guys when they were in a pack. but now trying to find his way past the McLaren in the twisties. I think the Porsche would probably be the better car in this section, but the McLaren has a nice wide chassis, similar to the Mercedes, so probably should be very good in that section. Here's Benefield right on the back of Pignata. There's Oaks and Lacassis, and it looks like Oaks has managed to get a better run out of that section. Speaking of runs, well, looks like Pignata is the one with the better run coming out of Junsao and down the start-finish straight. This is where Benefield will get a whisper of slipstream. I'm pretty sure Pignata is going to be driving the wheels off this Mercedes, trying to keep Benefield back.
Yeah, and he's doing a great job of that so far. You can see them bunch up a little bit in the braking zone, but that exit out of the final corner is so important to get a good run onto the straight, and that's what will set you up for that move into turn one. But see, you got to be a little bit patient on the throttle, I think, for that final corner. So Benefield right on the back of Pignata still. With Pepperell watching on behind. I wonder how long it's going to take before he gets close enough to make a move, because they've been really close for the last few laps, but Benefield just can't quite get close enough. Maybe he's being a little bit more cautious because of the previous events tonight, but he's got the pace, but Pignata's showing he's a little bit faster at the moment.
Yeah, taking a little bit of a wider exit from Ferradura as well to set up these hairpins, but it's out of those hairpins that Benefield has the advantage. Meanwhile, Damon Mulqueen losing third place there to Hamish Cleland, or potentially trying to get second place, and Cleland defending. Nice little battle between these guys as Benefield has gotten, he almost got past Pignata, and it was at the exact location I predicted. It's that final hairpin at Pinheirino, if I'm not mistaken, that he gets it done beautifully up the inside. Live pictures of both classes as we speak.
Yeah, Benefield's got a lot closer this time, Reese. He's in the draft. He got a much better exit out of the corner, the final corner. He's got the overlap around the outside now, so they'll give him the inside into turn two. It's just got to get it done. Keep it alongside under braking here. Pignata the inside still, and Benefield nicely done. Gets it set up well through turn one. Finishes off in turn two, and Russell Pepperell might be looking to get past Pignata here as well, because he's had a bad run through that turn 1-2 complex. He's looking down the inside, and things better.
Yeah, I think Pignata recognised at that point that Benefield had the corner, and he just decided it was better to let him go, and he'll be able to fight his way forward again if he needs to. But I think he's given up a bit too much time, because Pepperell is right on the back of him now and hungry for that last spot in the top four. The TCR battle is still continuing there on the bottom of the screen for second spot. Cleland versus Mulqueen versus Baldwin, and I tell you what, Mulqueen, he's one of the quicker Australian New Zealand drivers in the TCR class. Not as quick as Hobbo in the Audi, but he's certainly got a lot of experience under his belt. He spent a lot of time racing in European TCR leagues to learn how to go fast in these cars, and he's applying that beautifully right now.
Yeah, he is doing really well with this. He's got that number one on the door for a reason. He's got this, doesn't have any overlap there, but I was just about to say that Hobbo, again, is absolutely dominating this race, and it's always really seems to be a case of best of the rest. Not that we're complaining, because we've got some great battles going on, but it's not to be understated that Hobbo is very fast in these cars, and I'm sure that him and Mulqueen have been learning quite a bit off each other. But look at Mulqueen, he's all over the back of him at the moment. So just trying to find the right little window of opportunity. Let Cleland maybe let the door open a little bit at some point. Look at that, really close.
Yeah, has to wait a little bit longer, does Damon Mulqueen, for another chance to get past Hamish Cleland. Meanwhile, you see at the top of the screen, Pignata and Benefield still battling hard. Pignata starting to catch back up. Meanwhile, this battle's been going on for a while between Taylor Oaks and Nick Lacassis. Lacassis got past Oaks about a lap or so ago, but has found himself back behind, interestingly.
Yeah, I've just seen on my screen as well, Pignata's just made a slight little bit of contact with the back of Daniel Benefield, but no positions changed there. But like you said, Reece, they've been fighting quite a lot as well. Perhaps not getting as much attention, being in for 6th and 7th, but still fantastic battles going on as well. As we see Scott Griffiths getting a DNF for towing without permission. I don't recall seeing that happening, so I'm not sure what happened there. But there's Mulqueen down the inside of Cleland. Oh.
Just enough room being given there and not an inch more. That's what we love about TCR racing. And now Cleland will maintain the position for the time being, but a bit compromised, I think, on entry. Mulqueen getting on the power and trying to find a way past, but it's really difficult to get the move done in TCRs. You know, you can run side by side for a good portion of any given lap, but actually getting the move done, you need to be so confident. Speaking of confident, look at that. Look up the inside there from Mulqueen, but wider line on exit will benefit Cleland.
Yeah, they're kind of slowing each other down a little bit sometimes, but I mean, they don't really care. That the P1's already long gone, so the only guy they got to worry about is Brady Baldwin behind. I can hear in my ear that a few calls coming into race control at the moment, so I'm not sure what's happened there. But head race control Dan Yeoman getting on the radio about something. But another thing with these cars is the draft, especially this track, is major. Like Mulqueen getting it, just every time he looks like he's going to go for it, he just bloody backs out. He might be trying the mind punt, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, this is, I think, what race control was talking about. So, technical issues for the Alpha Venturi McLaren, and it looks like big netcode from Braden O'Loughlin, who comes to a stop on the start-finish straight and escapes pretty much right away, which I don't think he was allowed to do. Regardless, I think race control would have given him permission to tow anyway, as, I think that might have been a slowdown for Hamish Cleland. He's now behind Mulqueen and Baldwin off the podium.
Oh no, what's happened there? That's really unfortunate. I mean, he's got the pace to maybe bring it back, but there's not much time left. As we're cutting across the curbs, I don't know if that's
fine.
it. That's fine. Might be, yeah, there it is.
Yeah,
maybe
that's
on
not
the grass.
fine.
Yeah, that's a good 1.5 second slowdown, and we all know that in iRacing that means about 3 seconds, especially in a fast section like that. But a couple of teammates in the Frog cars going at it at the moment. Scott Hassler and Brandon Groach, and Garen Batten and Stephen Banks not too far behind as well, looking to maybe capitalise on this fight happening at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. Hasler versus Groch, the two teammates of Frog Leap Juice. They've got Garen Batten and Stephen Banks for Pacific Esports Racing right behind them. Actually, no, sorry. I think, yeah, Batten's Pacific Esports. So, yeah, this will be interesting for sure, this battle, as the TCR field takes the white flag. GT4's already halfway around their final lap. In fact, make that 3/4 or even 4/5. Luke Swan, 13 laps will be on the board, and he's just exited Junsao with a 9/10 of a second lead over his teammate Simon Mazzomo. The battling has been close all the way to the end, but in the end it's going to be a 9-5 SimSport 1-2-3. Beautiful stuff from the team, as Swan will do the double at Interlagos. Mazzomo finishes second, Benefield in third. Pignata will have to settle for fourth ahead of Russell Pepperell. The drag race still on between Taylor Oakes and Nick Lacassis to the line. Lacassis has a little bit of momentum, but it's not enough to get past Oakes before they cross.
Yeah, and those two guys couldn't be separated all race, and it went right to the end. 1/10 between them as we cut to the 88 Audi of Brendan Hobson. Fantastic drive from him again. He's still, I believe he's already taken the checkered flag. Fantastic drive from him. Big gap, 5 seconds or so by the end of the race. So fantastic job by him.
Yeah, brilliant job indeed for Brenton Hobson. Actually, he hasn't taken the checkered flag yet. He's slowing down a bit through the final sector here. Is this the team getting a photo? It seems. Yeah, it looks like it is. Brenton Hobson, Brady Baldwin, and Damon Mulqueen. Oh, yeah. getting the message there is Brady Baldwin. And there is the photo op for Synergy Sim Racing. 1, 2, 3 in the TCR class. A magnificent drive from all three of these guys here. Fourth place ultimately will go to Scott Hasler. Garen Batten and Stephen Banks finish behind him, and there's been further problems for Hamish Cleland. He's fallen down to 7th spot in TCR. That's a sad end to what was a great night for him.
Yeah, but you know what, Reece? All in all, for us viewers, it was a fantastic night. We had a bit of everything, didn't we? We had crashes, we had good moves, we had the whole lot. So, well done to all the drivers.
Indeed. Swan, 9/10 ahead of Mazomo. Benefield completing the podium. Pignata, Pepperell, Oaks, Lacassis finishing in the top 7 there. It was a big gap to Peter Pavlovich, who worked his way past Ryan Green and Linton Wills. Those two Alpha Venturi cars having major issues early on in the race, just struggling on the cold tyres as we get news of a 5-second time penalty for Aidan Kale in the TCRs, blocking for Edward Shelley on lap 9. So Aidan Kale's first outing in TCR has not been without its dramas. He's certainly had penalties in both races. But regardless, the TCR results, Hobson 10th ahead of Mulqueen and Baldwin, completing the podium there. Hasler getting into 4th spot, and as we said, some big issues for Hamish Cleland all the way down in P7. Aidan Kale and Brandon Groach, the last finishers on the lead lap. Doug Gowans, unfortunately, having to come home a lap down thanks to the contact from before. Scott Griffiths and Edward Shelley are both retirees from the race. Before we go to our break, we have an opportunity to chat to our double race winner from tonight. Luke Swan is with us now from the number 55 95 Sim Sports Porsche. Congratulations, Luke. That looked easy from the outside, but I'm sure it wasn't the same story from inside the cockpit.
Yeah, g'day. Thanks, Reece, mate. There's a few sweats coming out of the forehead, so it wasn't easy, but yeah, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I bet you did. It seemed like Mazomo and Benefield were certainly giving you a good race in the early stages.
Yeah, definitely. We all sort of raced pretty well together and just communicating the whole time. So it was good to have that finally. Missed them the first few races, so it's good to have that teamwork in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. With your championship lead now being extended, it looks like the season is going well for you so far. But with Mazomo and Benefield now joining you in the Porsches pretty much full time in the series, from what I imagine, I think now it's up to getting the maximum points for the team as well.
Yeah, exactly. Bossman Sean will sure love to see a team win, and we'll be pushing pretty hard to get that by the end of the season.
Final thoughts. Next round is going to be Sonoma. It's certainly going to be difficult in terms of traffic if you get an opportunity to lap the TCRs.
Yeah, that's middle of August, because I think that's going to be my drop round. I will be over in New Zealand, unfortunately, for that one.
I see. Well, it looks like, according to the calendar, it's going to be the 3rd of August.
No, I will be there for that one then.
Brilliant. Nicely
Sounds
done.
good. Looking forward to that.
Yep, as are we, Luke. Before we let you go, is there any partners you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, absolutely. To yourselves for the broadcast. Love what you guys do. And to 95 Sim Sports, our sponsors Racecraft, Turn-In Apparel, RSW Graphics, Racing Ears, and Prestige Simtography.
Luke Swan there in the number 55, winning both races in the GT4 class. And as for TCR, it was another double for the 88 of Brenton Hobson. Tell you what, Hobbo, I don't know what you're doing in that Audi, but it's working for you.
Thanks, Reece. Yeah, it is. I'm really enjoying it. I like this car. It's always suited me well, and I probably don't feel the quietness and comfort as it did before the tyre update in this car, but it seems to still be serving me well. So yeah, another good couple of races tonight, and I'm happy with that.
How was the communication for the photo finish at the end of race 2? Because I saw Brady making up a lot of ground on you guys before he slowed down.
Yeah. he was threatening to steal one, but no, it was a good chance for us just to cross the line together. That's the first one I think for the year that we finished 1, 2, 3 in a race. So for a team thing, that's a nice touch. And you know, I owe it all to Damon because he puts the time in these cars, and every round puts together a setup not only for him and Brady and Scott in their Elantra, but also for me in the Audi. So you know, it's cool for us to be able to work together as a team like that, and then also get the result as a team together as well.
Absolutely. Well, championship lead extended coming out of Interlagos. Sonoma is the next round. I asked this question to Luke Swan. How are you feeling about the potential for traffic there?
I don't know, but I mean, I don't really know what to think about Sonoma in general, but I know that in my time in the supercar there, it's probably one of my favourite tracks. So I love the place. I love ripping around there in NASCARs and stuff like that too. So don't know that I've ever driven a TCR there before, but everything I've driven there in the past I've really liked. So fingers crossed, yeah, I enjoy it again, and we've got good pace, you know, there as well, and can keep the win streak alive.
Well, Sonoma is where you got your best V8SCOPS finishes. So obviously there's a lot of form to back up there, but your form in the Audi has been massive this season. Hobbo, congratulations again. Anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Thanks, Reese. Well, like I said already, the guys on the team, particularly Damon, for their work, you know, a lot of respect for them, and we have a lot of fun doing it. So shout out to those guys. Obviously, the sponsors for the team as well. Watercraft Performance Center, Works Racing Components, Dr. Epoxy, and all the others. There's quite a few that help us out there, which is really cool. Thanks to the league for putting on the series, and of course you guys as well for putting on a great broadcast for everybody. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Brenton Hobson, for joining us there. TCR winner of this round of the GTC in V8SCOPS supports. Well, now we are going to jump right into the V8s. This is one of our favourite categories, and certainly one of the favourites of the drivers as well. Matt Haywood on top of the standings at the moment, with Aaron Gilbert making it an excellent second place in the standings so far. Dean Alessi and Joe Mahoney doing very well too. Dylan Gray, fantastic pace from him this season. Hasn't quite been able to back up the race results though, but still a very strong standing in the championship. That's your top 10 in the V8 standings as we make our way into these races. But before we do that, going to step aside for a moment here on SimSpeed TV. Qualifying just beginning for the V8s category. I'm looking forward to this one, and we hope you guys are too.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
You're watching SimSpeed TV, V8SCOPS supports action on a Friday night. It's time for the V8 support category. We had a fantastic run in the GTC, but this is what's on the card for these brutal V8 touring cars. It's the same race format as we saw in the GTC. 15-minute race 1, 20-minute race 2, progressive grid, and that's pretty much all there is to it. If you're just joining us, I'm Reese Gardner, Dean Hunt with me in the comms box, Jay Kennedy on production. I'll tell you what, Dean, Interlagos has certainly delivered so far tonight. Can't wait to see what the V8s bring us.
Oh yeah, definitely, Reese. The GTCs definitely put on a show for us as a bit of a curtain raiser for our V8s tonight. These cars are very tricky to drive at the best of times, but on a circuit like this, we spoke about it before, it's quite technical, especially in that middle section. So a lot of hard braking, and there are a lot of patience on the throttle required. So the boys are out there at the moment trying to, get the best qualifying time in that they can to obviously get out of that traffic. But Aaron Gilbert, champion from last year, getting out there at the moment to set a lap time. He currently hasn't. He's set one at the moment, but not quite at the pace we've seen him at.
Yeah, indeed. Aaron Gilbert, P2 in the championship, currently 9th in qualifying at the moment. He's looking for some clear air to put a proper lap down, but clear air's been hard to come by. We were looking at this behind the scenes when we went on break, and man, the outlap was incredible. Pretty much the entire field going out at the same time. It's only a 10-minute qualifying session for this one, and a solid field of cars. We have 21 on track at the moment. I gotta say, it's typical V8SCOPS sort of action here, seeing a lot of drivers out on track at the same time.
Yeah, it's really good to see. I mean, we spoke about the participation in the previous times with the SCOPS supports. It's really great to see some big driver turnouts. Just see Costello and Stevens having a bit of a race into the final corner. I wonder if someone's going to get on the radio about that shortly. But yeah, fantastic turnouts so far. I mean, 20 odd cars on a Friday night's pretty impressive, especially at this time of evening, especially for our Kiwi friends as well.
Indeed. Rainer Costello at the moment on provisional pole position, half a second and more ahead of Joe Mahoney. Costello certainly has got this down pat at the moment, riding on board with him around a lap. It's amazing to see the forces that go through these cars around this lap. Super heavy braking into Descida do Lago, but the track narrows up quite a bit on the exit there. You've got to be careful not to step too far beyond the curb, otherwise you will get an off track.
Yeah, and I think as well, it does come a bit off camber as well, so the off track might end up being the least of your worries if you're gassing it up too early. But yeah, coming across a lot of these curves, I think you've got to make sure that car is under a lot of control, because we've seen in previous rounds, in previous events in the V8 Supercar, the rear is quite easy to lose, of course. When you're trying to bounce across these steep curves like that, it really unsettle the car, so that's another thing you guys will be watching out for tonight.
Yeah, big curbs in Interlagos as Costello reaches the end of the lap, just behind the Pacific Esports Racing Falcon. We'll get maybe a whisper of slipstream down the start-finish straight as Chris Coxhead goes to P2. Good stuff from Team Jinx Shifters there, getting into the top. Aaron Gilbert also improving up to 5th place. Rainer Costello's lap that time by was a 1:31.7. That is a new quickest time in qualifying. A brilliant improvement, and it remains to be seen whether or not anyone's going to be able to keep up with him. Joe Mahoney will try. He gets to within 0.5 of a second, getting up to 2nd place.
Yeah, that's quite a big gap there, almost half a second there between Costello and Mahoney. Dan Stevens potentially looking to come into the pits and abandon that lap, so he's settling down in P11. Most drivers finishing up quali at the moment, but a few guys still get to complete their final flying lap. But yeah, that gap between P1 and P2 is not something we're used to seeing, as Coxhead getting a little bit slidey, a lot a bit slidey, it seems, pushing really hard to try and improve to that front row position. Dylan Gray in that Falcon behind him, and Coxhead seems to have abandoned that lap now.
Yeah, he doesn't have much time. Dylan Gray is going to be one of the last cars to get to the line here. It's a hard cut to the end of the qualifying session because we are running a heat format in the server. 7, 6, 5. Is Dylan Gray going to make it to the line in time? He might just, and he will. 133.2, but I don't think that lap counted ultimately. Oh, man. Oh, it did count, but there wasn't an improvement. He just missed out on improving by 1/10 of a second. Well, qualifying is done, and now it's time to go through the grid. Reina Costello, a magnificent pole position there, starting alongside Joe Mahoney, who needs a good result to get his championship charge back on track. Chris Cox said he jumped in at Winton, and he's certainly been the quickest of the Jinx Shifters cars since then, with Aidan Kale starting alongside him. Maybe Kale will have better luck than he did in the TCR tonight. Aaron Gilbert, former champion of this series, starts in 5th place alongside Richard Mayer, our friend from Suit Speed. And then in 7th spot, Troy Allen will start alongside Dylan Gray to round out the first 4 rows of the field. Rounding out the top 10 will be Dion DeGraaf, and Gavin Cox will be 10th spot.
Daniel Stevens in P11, but I believe he's just been giving a penalty, so he'll be starting from the pit lane. Colin Bruns in P12, his teammate for Middle Finger Racing. Henry King, P13, with Matt Haywood a little bit further back than we're used to seeing him in P14 for Team Simblacks. Jesse McMenamin, Frog Leap in P15. Isaac Edwards from Race on Oz in P16. Dion DeGraaf for the Simblacks in P17, and Peter Pavlovich P18 off the grid. P19 we have Stephen Banks, who was interfered with earlier, and Dan Mirko for Race on Oz in P20. And Blake Fitz and Sean Blake Fitzpatrick rounding out the grid. I don't believe Vandermeulen has made it, maybe, I'm not sure. He's somehow behind the safety cars.
Yeah, well, Vandermeulen didn't set a time in practice or qualifying, though he was present in the server at some point. But, well, we will have 21 cars taken to the start here as the revs rise. The V8s here at Interlagos. 15 minutes on the clock. Race 1 is go. And it looked like Joe Mahoney was creeping forward just a bit there before the lights went out. He has not nailed the start. He's going to have to give way to his teammate Aidan Kale on the inside. Aaron Gilbert trying to pincer move him as... Oh, my God. The Team Jinx Shifters cars made contact there. Gilbert sent airborne as Coxhead was, interestingly, slow into the first turn. Bit of a chaotic start here. Richard Mayer trying to find his way around Mahoney, but unsuccessful for now, and he's going to be one of the many corks in the bottle here as Dylan Gray, Troy Allen, and Dion DeGraaf try their best and get themselves into Descida del Lago without incident. Looks like the entire field's managed to get through for now.
But now, so far, not without a car getting airborne. Peter Pavlovich at the back there didn't get off the grid at all, so he's lost quite a lot of ground. But we see Zach Mahoney sliding out on the outside, Aaron Gilbert, sorry, and he's turned. Richard Mayer makes contact with him, and he's been collected on the way through. And Mayer has been dropping through the grid now like a stone. He's got some heavy damage on that Suit Speed Commodore. That's very disappointing for him, not how you want to start your race.
Yeah, very heavy contact with Aaron Gilbert coming into the hairpins. Of course, all cars on iRacing now have the new damage model as problems have continued for Gavin Cox. He's come to a stop there coming out of Bico de Pato. That's the name of that hairpin. I got it right eventually. But yeah, the new damage model of iRacing has been extended to all cars on the service, and that means you can't get away with a lot of what you used to in these cars.
They take a bit of a hit, and I wonder if Coxhead that got caught air at the beginning there. I wonder if he'll have a bit of damage as we go to the replay here. So Mayer's just minding his own business on the outside, and it just kind of gets maybe a little bit turning across his nose. I'm not sure. He couldn't really go any further to the right. There was another car there, so it might just be one of those, lap one, bit of bad luck. Better luck in the 20-minute race. coincidence there, but that's unfortunate.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we're going to see what happened here to Gilbert and Coxhead on the way in. I'm not too sure why Coxhead was going slow, but man, Gilbert certainly had a wild ride there, potentially getting some suspension damage from that, which might have explained why he was a bit offline coming into the sequence where Mayer ran into him. Well, Mayer and Gilbert are both in the pit lane at the moment and getting some heavy damage repair. So that might be the end of their first race. It's now up to Dylan Gray to try and find his way past Henry King to get into the top 5.
Yeah, we've seen Dylan Gray with some great racecraft in this series and amongst other of our broadcasted series. But, Henry King, definitely a fast driver and knows how to hold on to his position. But Dylan Gray got a little bit of a run on him here. He's got the draft. And we'll see which way King goes to defend, if he wants the inside or the outside. As we get a little bump from Gray from behind maybe. A bit of a bump draft, and he's given him the inside, so it'll give him the inside into turn 2. But Gray just gets it done. And,
Oh my goodness gracious me. Simblack's car going for a slide, and then Colin Bruns gets spun in the background. Dion de Graaf having a wild ride himself coming into the first couple of turns.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. They all sort of tripped over each other there. It's quite easily done with the way that corner is laid out. And as we see, getting on the outside there, couldn't quite catch who that was. That was Dion de Graaf and Stephen Banks racing each other. Sorry, I'm tripping over my words here. The Simblack's car getting down the inside, getting that position right back, but they all seem to be tripping over each other a little bit here.
Yeah, indeed, it's a bit difficult as it's come to our attention. There are 2 Dion de Graafs in the field. It looks like Craig Mason is the 04 is the there we are. Fixed it. Yeah, Dion de Graaf is the number 20. Craig Mason is in the 047. We do apologise for that slight glitch. As a problem for Dan Stevens coming up to Jun Sao, falling down behind his teammate Gavin Cox. Man, there's a lot of chaos that's been going on in this race so far, but Aidan Cale and Chris Coxhead battling over second place. Dylan Gray winning the battle for 5th for the time being, but here comes Troy Allen to say, hey, maybe I can have a chance at this.
Yeah, looking to join the party. And meanwhile, Randy Costello just slowly pulling away from this thing. He had the great pace in qualifying, of course, half a second in front of P2, but he's just pulling away. So it's really down to the best of the rest if he can keep that one under control. Troy Allen just sort of maybe waiting a little bit to see what happens in front of him here. And he does have not much of a gap behind him to Matt Haywood, so might not want to wait around too long, but we have seen Troy Allen pull some nice moves and some good lap times in the previous round, so we're looking forward to him as Henry King getting a little bit squirrely into the entry of the corner there, Reese.
Yeah, leaving a couple of tracks, or maybe that was Gray that did that. Dylan Gray certainly is driving hard at the moment, and he's locking up coming into the hairpins there. This is this is a great drive that we're seeing from all of these guys for the time being. Less than 9 minutes to go in the race now, and this is where drivers will be struggling to find a rhythm. They've been struggling for the last 4 laps and maybe a little bit more to try and find their rhythm around this place, but now, with the field spaced out a little more, they can focus on their battles. They can focus on trying to play the long game and find their way past in the next few minutes. And when I say long game, it's relative. It's a very short race. As up the inside of Henry King goes Troy Allen. They spin, and Matt Haywood gets 2 positions for free.
Yeah, Matt Haywood says thank you very much. But yeah, was it Troy Allen that locked up on the way into the corner?
Yeah,
just collected the side of King, was it? Henry King on turn 1 there. So that's a bit unfortunate. Is Allen maybe slowing down a little bit of damage, or just sort of trying to regain his composure and rhythm again?
Yeah, not too sure. It was a late maneuver. He locked up on the way in, and, well, yeah, I think that's entirely on Troy Allen. They're so close to collecting Matt Haywood as well, but Haywood just placed his car in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. Well, now Jesse McMenamin finds his way ahead of Troy Allen, thanks to Troy trying to make some recovery. Definitely got a bit of damage on the car now, has Troy, so Jesse may have a slight advantage there. He's in the mix with Dion DeGraaf as well, trying to find his way further into the top 10.
Yeah, Jesse's doing a really good job at the moment. I mean, obviously Troy Allen's going to have something to say about that P10, but I was talking to Jesse earlier in the week, and he's always one of those guys that's like, oh, I'll be getting the back, I'm not that fast, but a bit of a dark horse normally. He sort of surprises himself maybe how well he performs, and he's doing that tonight, but Allen's looking to stick on down the inside of turn 1. A little bit too much. Almost collected DeGraaf in front, and he's losing a few spots because of that. And there's Richard Mayer, who we saw earlier with a lot of damage. Good to see him back on the circuit, albeit a couple of laps down.
Yeah, looks like all of our cars that have been involved in incidents are back out on track now, so we still have all 21 cars on the circuit. Aaron Gilbert running last, and Dan Stevens finding his way back out of the pits and just making sure his car is up to scratch down the straight. Blake Fitzpatrick, meanwhile, trying to keep Colin Bruns behind him. It's been a bit of a patchy race for the Middle Finger Racing crew and Pacific Esports Racing as well. Bit of smoke up ahead. Has something gone wrong for someone in front of them? Maybe for Peter Pavlovich, who's had a bit of a rough night so far. Stephen Banks, meanwhile, for contact with Gavin Cox on lap 1, 5-second time penalty for the number 17 here. Now, he's running in 11th spot now, made his way past Troy Allen. 5 seconds will put him just ahead of Fitzpatrick in 14th spot if the race was called right now.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for him, but I think that's was a pretty easy one for race control to put that penalty down on him. But we've seen a lot of mistakes being made at the moment, so it's all about trying to minimize those. And there's the penalty. Yeah, he just sent it down the inside and turned in, which, look, you can see by the way that he lifted after that to look in his mirrors and see if the redress was there. Of course, it was not.
A little bit deep then for Blake Fitzpatrick, and it looks like Colin Bruns will find his way past there coming through turn 3, but have a look at the run that Fitzpatrick picks up there around the outside of turn 3. Curva de Sol is one of those corners where if you're on the outside, it's not the end of the world, and he'll find his way back past. Oh, but he's a bit too deep again. He's really struggling.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of drivers struggling on the brakes, so a lot of tyre smoke coming up in the braking zones, but Bruns has got his overlap around the outside, not really the easiest spot to hold it there. Bruns just trying to stay on a little bit on the back of Fitzpatrick here, but yeah, I think Fitzpatrick's doing a really good job to keep it on the track, but he's got to be really careful of those tyres as it just slides out again. It's a short race, but tyre deg in these cars is very rapid.
Yeah, rapid indeed. 4 minutes left on the clock, and I think these guys will certainly be feeling it. Chris Coxhead and Aidan Kale, they've got a lot to play for here. Fantastic fight for second place. Reina Costello's driving away from them at the moment. The gap holding at about 2.5 seconds. So unless Costello makes a mistake, I think that's going to be it for the battle for the lead. But Aidan has a statement to make here.
Yeah, Kale, like we said, didn't have a lot of luck in the TCR classes earlier, and looking to really capitalise back on that. Currently sitting P3, like you said, that'll give him the inside for race 2, which is our longer 20-minute format. But that's 208 Machine Coxhead's doing a really good job. He's a solo. He's the only. So there's 2 Commodores in the top 10, being him in P2 and Jesse McMenamin in P10. So he's a bit of a lone ranger up the top there in the Commodores, but he's doing a really good job so far.
Race control deeming the incident between Mayer and Gilbert on the first lap a racing incident. And I think reviewing the replay from earlier, it does make sense. Still, I think both of them will be none too happy with where they've ended up as a result of that contact. Well, 2.5 minutes left on the clock. A lap around here is about 1.5 minutes in these cars, so it looks like this is the beginning of the penultimate lap of the race. Reina Costello holding on to magnificent pace up the front of the field, only running 0.05 of a second slower than his fastest. Seems like Reina's just managing the car at the moment.
Yeah, and so he should be. I mean, you're 2.5 seconds ahead, only a couple of laps to go. You don't want to push too hard and take any risks. You see Dan Mirko and Troy Allen exchanging places, albeit maybe briefly. So coming down into turn 1, Mirko down the inside. Of course, we're given the outside. He gets a bit deep there. The switchback's on, but I think he's done quite well there to block the inside for turn 2. And now Kale is all over the back of Coxhead all of a sudden.
Yeah, Aiden Kale getting a good run down Retta Aposta, I think, in the slipstream, and pressuring Chris Coxhead, who dominated the Winton round a few weeks ago. We'll see what he can do to hold him off. Aiden Kale trying to make up for, a very fast but kind of patchy performance in the GTC earlier on tonight. Seems like he's a little bit more at home in the V8s, and he has to focus now on the exit of Junsao. Seems like Coxhead did a better job of that, just going for the slow in, fast out philosophy. The white flag is out, and it will be taken by Reina Costello, and the 10-lapper to start off the night enters its final circuit of the Autodromo Jose Carlos Paz. What can Aiden Kale do to get past Chris Coxhead?
Yeah, he's got to stay on the back of him, and I think his best chance might have already passed him at turn 1 and turn 2 there. But never say never. He might even end up with a slowdown penalty going that wide. Maybe not. It's not slowing down at all, but this battle is really heating up. Kale's got some incident points up his sleeve potentially to use to get as close as he can to Coxhead. Coxhead doing a really good job so far, making that car nice and wide. Like I said, that lone Commodore up the front there, doing a really good job, and just keeping Kale at bay for this moment.
Yep. But this is the sequence where technical skill is going to pay off. You've got to focus on your exits, focus on your apexes. That's where you make up the time, and it seems like Chris Coxhead is going to do just enough to hold off Aiden Kale's advances here right at the end. So an exciting race about to draw to a close. Only one proper turn to go for our leader, Reina Costello. Car number 56 came here ready to fight, and Reina is going to bring it home for the win from pole position, leading every lap and getting the fastest lap as well for good measure. Congratulations, Reina Costello, winner of race 1 here at Interlagos. Chris Coxhead will hold off Aiden Kale, and it's all on behind Dylan Gray here. Matt Haywood and Craig Mason right behind him. The Simblacks dual-pronged attack. Is it going to come to anything? Haywood, hitting the pit wall on the way to the line. That cost him a tiny bit of momentum there. Dion de Graaf, making his way past Henry King at turn 1 earlier on in the lap, is going to get 8th place for his troubles.
Yeah, Henry King just sliding into turn 1 there to finish it off. But Jesse McMenamin taking out the final position in the top 10 there with Stephen Banks not too far behind him. A little close battle here towards the end there for Gavin Cox and Blake Fitzpatrick. Of course, Cox being the beneficiary there, but wow, what a race, what a drive from Reina Costello, and he's still got another 20-minute bout to go before he can say that's a perfect night.
Yeah, indeed. He will keep pole position for race 2 thanks to the win there, as Aaron Gilbert will be the last car to cross the line, a long way behind where he would like to have been. Remember, Gilbert started in 5th place. There's your top 10 then. Chris Coxhead, 2.5 seconds behind Reina Costello in the end. It was only 4/10 between himself and Aidan Kale. A long way back to Joe Mahoney, who had a bit of a lonely race in fourth. Still, excellent points there for the number 36. Dylan Gray finishes in the top 5. Good stuff from him, just ahead of Haywood and Mason. De Graaf will come home another 8 seconds or so behind. Henry King and Jesse McMenamin rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, that was a very eventful race. Stephen Banks taking out P11, Pacific Esports, Dan Mirko, Troy Allen, P12 and P13 respectively. Peter Pavlovich, saw him getting into a bit of excitement, taking out P14. Colin Bruns in that 111 for Middle Finger Racing, P15 with his teammate Gavin Cox behind him in P16. Blake Fitzpatrick taking out P17 and Isaac Edwards in P18, last car to finish on the lead lap. We saw Richard Mayer get into a bit of strife, finishing a couple of laps down with Dan Stevens, also 2 laps down in P20. And Peter Pavlovich, Aaron Gilbert, P21. He'll be having a big hill to climb to get a result in race 2.
Yeah, only a 20-minute race or 14 laps, whichever comes first, and having to make your way up from the very back of the grid. I mean, Gilbert is one of the best in this field, but I think he'll have a lot of difficulties finding his way up from here. Well, only 35 seconds left in the warm-up before we get into race 2. And, I mean, Reina Costello up the front of the field is looking pretty untouchable at the moment. But I'm looking for some big comebacks from the likes of potentially Troy Allen, definitely Richard Mayer, Daniel Stevens, and Aaron Gilbert at the back of the field.
Yeah, and for Richard and Gilbert, one question for them is, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. So they've just got to pace themselves. 20 minutes, not a long race, but it's definitely not a short race. Plenty of time to get some moves done. We know that they both got a lot of pace in these cars. So it'll be good to see them make their way through the field. Hopefully nice and clean, but it'll be nice and exciting to watch.
It will. The track temperature, as you can see, has fallen ever further. Only 29 degrees Celsius track temperature in warm-up. And as far as the race 2 session goes, it is 29 still. Actually, 27 according to the overlays there. So, oh no, back to 29 again. Okay, so the weather system's playing tricks on us. Now it's up to 30. Okay, we're going to have a bit of a warming track going on here, Dean. This will be interesting.
Yeah, it's starting to get a little bit toasty as we're getting towards midday. It's 11:45 in sim time, so it's only going to get hotter as the race goes on. Probably not by a lot, but we saw in the GTCs the track temp was quite low, but of course, in the V8s, I think track temperature is even more important. Like we said with that tyre deg, there's no pit stop in this race. You're stuck with that one set for the whole 20 minutes. You better look after them.
Yep. A slightly warmer track will result in a little bit more heat up in the tires. These cars tend to last about 10 to 15 laps before you start seeing those tires drop off. So a shorter race length probably tempts the drivers into pushing them a bit harder, but maybe that's not the way to go. Maybe just look after your tires, try and maintain your position and push forward later when everyone else has run their tires ragged. Just a few seconds left to run on the grid here, as it looks like we have all 21 of our starters back on the circuit. Sean Vandermeulen still hasn't made an appearance, and I think he just decided to jump on in just to see how things were going, or maybe had some issues keeping him away from the sim. In terms of Troy Allen and Stephen Banks back on lap 9 of race 1, no further action for moving under brakes, but regardless, Troy Allen, he seemed to have a lot of troubles with turn 1 in particular, and that's the first turn he's going to come to, unsurprisingly, as the revs rise and we get ready to go for race 2 of the V8s. The standing start will be nailed by our leader, Reina Costello? No, it will be nailed by Chris Coxhead, who moves into the lead, coming out of the start-finish straight. Fantastic moves up from Coxhead, from Kale, from Joe Mahoney, Matt Haywood as well. Rainer Costello falling down to 5th place, but could get it back as there's been a big crash at the back of the field.
Yeah, Bruns got a bit sideways there into turn 1. I think that might have... I'm not sure if there was contact before that, but I did catch it on my screen here. He just sort of slid across the track and took a few cars with him, but for Rainer Costello, that was not the ideal start. Coxhead, Kale and Mahoney all benefiting from that. Haywood tried to get through as well, but he was boxed out by his own teammate, so he decided to lift off, otherwise he was going to go straight into the back of his teammate.
Yeah, well, it's sorted for the time being. Race Control will certainly have a look at that one, but now we'll keep our eyes peeled on the front of this field, see what Rainer Costello can do to get back into the lead. He'll get back into 3rd at least. Joe Mahoney having to make way for him at Bico de Pato, but Chris Coxhead and Aidan Kale taking great advantage of that poor start for Rainer Costello. He will have to do a little bit of extra work to get it done here. Coxhead slightly wide coming through Junsao, and that might give half a chance for Aidan Kale to move into the lead at the start of lap 2.
Yeah, more trouble for Richard Mayer as the safety car's been called. Safety car has been called. Richard Mayer, I saw, was spun around
Gavin
at some
Cox.
point, and Gavin Cox is the one who is causing the safety car. There he is, hiding behind the hills. I wonder what happened there. I think a few cars were involved in that. After that turn 1 sort of incident, there's a big pack of them. So here's that one from Bruns. A little bit too deep on the brakes and tried to get out of the way, but took his teammate with him.
Yeah, I think an onboard from Bruns' perspective might be worth looking at, but you see the damage there for Gavin Cox. My goodness, the rear is not attached on the right-hand side. That's a little bit ridiculous. So we'll keep our eyes peeled to see if he'll get the permission to tow back to the pits, but there was no way he was getting that thing back to the pit lane under its own power. But yeah, the onboard. We're hearing that Bruns is also stopped near turn 4. Remember, Bruns was the car that went for that slide. I was going to say the onboard from Bruns coming into turn 1 might be worth looking at, as that's the damage for Colin Bruns there, the front left. That was from his initial contact with the wall, and it was the slowdown for turn 1 that caught him out there. I think Dan Mirko and everyone ahead of him at the time braked a bit earlier than Bruns was expecting. We're going to get the view of it here. Bruns actually got a lightning start and just moved on through, but you'll see Dan Mirko get on the brakes here ahead of him in the Orange Falcon. Bruns just reacted a bit too late and the rear's locked up, and that spat him right back out into the field.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think the launch from Rainer Costello maybe caused a little bit of concertina, because that launch was incredible from the back there, but from a long way back, it's crazy how that can affect it. But so going to another replay. This is the launch from Rainer Costello. Listen to the revs here. Potentially just didn't get a good launch, and spinning the tyres a little bit potentially, and hoping to pull out of it. So see the Race on Oz cars getting around, and Haywood ran the outside as well.
Yeah, that was great from Haywood. Just rounding the outside of turn 1, and then, Costello had the inside line for Interlagos, and was able to at least try to get up the inside there and recover something from that start. And he did ultimately get it done coming out of turn 4, though not with a slight bit of contact on the exit. In any case, back to live pictures, as the Proven Energy Porsche Mission R is out on the circuit at the moment, and should be out there for at least until the end of the lap. We'll have to wait and see.
Another replay here of this is Matt Haywood's launch. Absolutely gunned it off the start. Yeah, got kind of boxed in there and had to go around, but did a really good job not to run into the back of of Costello there. I did say something about his teammate getting in the way, but I think I got the the teams mixed around there. But a fantastic launch from him, and that's put him up into P5 at the moment.
Yep, up one position from where he started. If you're interested in how Aaron Gilbert and co are going, well, Aaron Gilbert is up into P15 right now, up 6 spots from where he started, and I think this safety car will work out well for him because it'll give him a chance for a nice clean restart and try to work his way a bit further up from here. He's going to be up against McMenamin, Fitzpatrick, Allen, Mirko, Banks, all drivers that he is usually quicker than, but how hard they'll fight against him is another matter entirely.
Of course, as he gets closer to the front, the less inclined people will be to let him through. I can hear that the safety car is coming in this lap, driven by Lachlan Capel at the moment. We're used to seeing him at the front of the field, Reese, but yeah, we haven't seen the safety car come out too much in this series, but definitely is adding to the excitement, and that Mission R, the electric vehicle.
Yeah, with some absolutely stonking pace indeed. It can definitely match these cars on acceleration. So into the pits he comes. Now the field is under the control of Chris Coxhead as the safety car now has the fastest lap of the race, but I don't think that'll last for too long as the green flag flies and Chris Coxhead will lead us away coming onto the 4th lap of this race. Initially a good launch from Matt Haywood trying to get past Joe Mahoney into 4th, but had to blend out of it to avoid passing him before they got to the start-finish line. But now things are close. Got to keep an eye on the rear of the field as well, because look at the racing that's going on here. Stephen Banks versus Dan Mirko. Banks is going to win that battle into 10th spot. But look at Troy Allen, look at Blake Fitzpatrick, Aaron Gilbert as well in the back of this pack. Oh, a little bit of contact in the rear from Troy Allen is going to send Mirko sliding, and that opens the door on the inside for Jesse McMenamin, who will move all the way through to the front of the pack.
Yeah, he's done pretty well there, but the Days of Thunder send it through the gap, but it's unfortunate, a bit of contact on the entrance of the corner there. And Aaron Gilbert getting on the inside there of Fitzpatrick, making his way through the field as we speak. Going back to the restart as well, Mahoney, I'm not sure what's going on, but he left a massive gap to Rainer Costello in front of him, and that's why Hayward was so far alongside him, but obviously had to pull out because of the, avoiding the penalty passing before the control line. But this battle for P1 is well and truly underway.
Yeah, Aidan Cale right on the back of Chris Coxhead now, and here comes Rainer Costello. He's got a double slipstream here, and there's not much Aidan Cale's going to be able to do to get past Coxhead, who moves to try and block the both of them, but that gives Cale the inside for turn 1. 3 wide on the way in, almost, and both Falcons locking up as the Commodore keeps the lead.
Wow, well done from Coxhead there. The gantry got in the way a little bit of the action, but the positions remain the same. But look at Costello's run here. He's got a little bit of a run on Cale. It's not quite enough of position. Or maybe it is. He's
wow.
Down the inside. Thank you very much. Under braking. What a move. That was from a mile back.
Magnificent. Rainer Costello's got the brakes sorted out on that number 56 Falcon. And now he'll have to reset and try and have a go at Chris Coxhead. Is Aidan Cale going to offer any fight back here? Well, he's pushing the limits and pushing them hard, but I don't think there's going to be anything that can match this. Just so late on the brakes. It's like Hamilton on Raikkonen at Monza 2007. You look at it and you think, how on earth did he pull that up? As Aaron Gilbert gets into 12th.
That was a fantastic move and a great little throwback for you, Reese. That's a long time ago, mate. But we're cutting to Craig Mason here and Dylan Gray arguing over P6 at the moment. Gray's in the middle of a sim black sandwich with Matt Haywood in front, but we're talking about the battle for the lead, which is very close still, as Chris Coxhead he's got Costello right under that Wilson Industrial Sales rear wing there, as he's looking to get on the outside here of Coxhead. Costello holding it on the outside. He's got the inside run into turn 2. Can he hold on to it, Reese? Yes, he can, but no, he cannot. Coxhead keeping a hold of it.
Yeah, but turn 4 is a really good spot to pass, and Costello asserting his place on the inside down the Reta Aposta to Interlagos, and he's up the inside into the lead. Coxhead tries to cut under him. Great cross back there from the 208, briefly back in the lead, but Costello will have the inside for Ferradura. Is he going to have enough to get it done here? Just moving ahead just a little bit. Coxhead, as the rise comes on, has to go for the inside again at the turn in. But oh wow, he's trying so hard to keep control of that rear end. He has overheated his rears now, and he has got 3 angry Falcons right on the back of him. Kale, Mahoney and Hayward.
Wow, that's some fantastic racecraft from both cars. And just props to Aiden Kale there as well. I think he had to back out of it a little bit because he almost caught the back end of Coxhead, which would have been a huge shunt. But well done to both Costello and Coxhead. That's some great racing, but now Costello's in the lead again, and he can just put his head down. He's already put 6/10 on Coxhead after heating those rears up, and now he's just looking to put that pace down and get back to what he does best, which was some hot laps earlier on.
Yeah, now Reina Costello's in clear air, and it seems like there's no matching him when he gets to the front, but Coxhead's going to try and hold on the slipstream as long as he can. Meanwhile, the 047 of Craig Mason has had a pretty standstill race if you just look at his positions gained and lost. He's in the same spot he started, but he's been right in the middle of all of this action the whole way through and trying to find his way past Dylan Gray, who's down 1 spot from where he started and is, it seems, struggling a bit to keep pace. Henry King and Dion DeGraaf, meanwhile, it's Jinx Shifters versus Simblacks, and then here we go, SLM versus Simblacks, as up the inside goes Craig Mason. Bit of contact through the second part of Ferradura, and the inside now for the hairpins, and he'll get that done.
Wow, Dylan Gray did a really good job to hang on to that, but he's just stamping his little Sud Speed badge on, and the Ford badge on the back of the Simblacks car there. Fantastic racing from both of them again. Have seen Dylan Gray and Craig Mason get stuck in a lot this season in terms of passing. So yeah, well done to both those guys. So cutting to Gilbert, if we wanted to check back in on him. Last I checked, he was up 10 positions to P11. So fantastic job from him. Stuck himself on the outside here of Troy Allen, and they almost made contact on the exit there. But he's got a bit of a run here, so he should be able to get another position into turn 1.
I've been corrected by race administrator Dan Yeaman. Dylan Gray here in the number 25, not at SLM anymore. He's running under his own team name of DK Motorsports, so effectively a privateer at the moment. Gotta say, he's lost none of his tenacity as he's trying his best to work his way back past Craig Mason.
Yeah, he started his own outfit, it seems, and now he's looking to start his move on Craig Mason. Gets it. That was a huge send again, and they make contact. They're still going. I didn't quite see if someone pushed someone off, but look who's behind him, Henry King in that Jinx Shifters machine, ready to pounce on Dylan Gray, almost making contact with the quarter panel of that Falcon. But that was a massive lunge, and surprised both of them got out of that without being in the lake.
So good. I love those dives. Dylan Gray, and well held, it has to be said, by Craig Mason. He did get a bit of help straightening up by some secondary contact from Gray, but they all work out well in the end. Got to be careful of those little taps, though. The damage model has already claimed more than a few drivers who have been a bit too liberal with their Morse code on the body panels of other cars. Aaron Gilbert, meanwhile, he's up into the top 10. He's just got past Stephen Banks.
Yeah, what a drive from him so far, but look at this. Coxhead is still all over Costello. I did not see this coming. We thought that, maybe a little love tap on the rear almost, but we thought Costello was going to drive away with this, but even Coxhead and Kale as well, both sticking within that drafting area. You know, Costello currently has the fastest lap, but you know, the boys behind him are on pace as well. and not too far behind them as well. Joe Mahoney and Matt Haywood rounding out the top 5 at the moment. So we might have another fight on here for first, second, and third.
Yeah, like you said, we didn't expect Reina Costello to still be in the reach of Coxhead and Kale. This is certainly not going to be over any time soon. 4.5 minutes still on the clock, and Kale's trying his best to work his way into second, but you never know, he might be better suited just sitting behind and allowing Coxhead to pressure Costello. It's a battle of the last names starting with C at the front of the field. Who's going to get it?
Yeah, I think Kale maybe might want to look at, like you said, Reese, just sort of enjoying the battle for a while and let these guys maybe burn their tyres out. Look to make a move a little bit later on, and that's Henry King, I think.
Yeah, he just had a spin.
Had a bit of a spin by himself, yeah, so that's unfortunate for him. But yeah, his teammate, Chris Coxhead, is all over Reina Costello again.
Side by side across the line in the braking zone for turn 1. Coxhead backs out of it, doesn't want to go for the move around the outside. He'll do the cut under as Reina Costello overshot turn 1. Chris Coxhead is back to the lead.
Watch out for Aidan Kale as well. He's got a bit of a run here, so he could look to make a move into turn 4, but Costello defending at the moment, letting Kale take the outside, which, like we said, is a little bit undesirable for that corner, and yeah, Kale just sees that is not his fight and lets him go. But Costello, I think, did he have a big lock up there and went a little bit deep, I think.
Yeah.
We saw, which we don't expect from him from the last few moves that he's made. He's been pretty good under brakes, so I'm not sure what's happened there.
Yeah, I found myself thinking that it was Coxhead backing out, but rather it was Costello overshooting the corner. I think he's worked all of the pace out of those tyres. This is what happened to King. There was a bit of contact ahead there between Mason and Gray, and I think King just got a bit distracted by that and spun up the wheels over the exit curb there at Bica de Pato.
Easy to do. A little bit of weight transfer, lights up the rear wheels, and yeah, a bit of distraction as well. Maybe a little bit too heavy-footed and got it going around. He did a pretty good job to gather it up and keep going. He's currently sitting in P11, only about a second behind Troy Allen at the moment, so not raced over for him. See what he can do moving forward.
Penultimate lap begins, 2 minutes and 10 seconds on the clock, and Reina Costello snatching some slipstream off Chris Coxhead, who takes a bit more of a conservative line through turn 1. Will Costello be able to set up a move at Descida del Lago at turn 4? Already in the slipstream coming out of Curva do Sol, down the Reta Oposta. It's nice and wide, there's opportunities for moves, but it looks like Costello doesn't quite have the confidence to go for those dives anymore.
Yeah, a big lock-up like that can do a lot for your confidence, but he's just got to dial his memory back a couple laps. And remember that huge pass he made earlier. He can definitely get it done under brakes. Maybe he's just waiting to get it on the last lap potentially, so that Coxhead doesn't have the slipstream coming into turn 1 to come back at him with. But he's stamping that Ford badge all over the back of that Commodore at the moment, so you know. See what happens.
And it's going to read Droff on the rear bumper of Chris Coxhead there, if Reina Costello has anything to say about it. But we have a single lap remaining in the race once they cross the start-finish line, and Costello's nice and close. But you see how good the exit is from Junsao for Chris Coxhead. That's incredible stuff. That means Costello has to work extra hard to stay in the slipstream.
Yeah, there's Barney waving the white flag, but look how close Aidan Kale is as well at the moment. He's right on that bumper as well, so you got to be careful if you're Costello here. As we see a big look from, I think that was from Coxhead in front,
yep.
And Costello might have a big run on the way through here. We saw him make that huge move before, so we know that he can get it done here as he's looking to the inside. Coxhead defends, but he's a little bit too late. Look at Kale right behind them as well. Costello down the inside. Looks like he's getting it done.
Yeah, but Coxhead cuts back under him again. This is fantastic. The battle for the win between Reina Costello and Chris Coxhead. They make contact on the way into Ferradura. Coxhead doesn't want to give Costello the room on the inside. Well, Costello's going to make room.
Yep, if you don't give me the room, I'll make my own room. And Coxhead just got like a little bit bullied out of that, but fantastic move from Costello with a switchback. Caught me off guard. I didn't see that coming, but look, Coxhead's still right on the back of him. It's not over yet. And you got to be careful because Kale's right behind them as well, so you can't throw too much at it and potentially risk losing that P2. There's slams into the back of him there, Reese.
Yeah, Mahoney and Haywood are right there as well. They've got potential to gain positions if there's a coming together into here. Well, this is the point. This is where Chris Coxhead gets much better exits. They all slide their way out of Junsao. It's going to be a drag race to the line between Reina Costello and Chris Coxhead. Who's going to get it done? Oh, easy does it. Bumping on the bumper there. Squeezing potentially into the pit wall. Coxhead is ahead of the line.
Wow, Coxhead gets it done. That, talk about a photo finish, 100th of a second, Reese. What an exit from Coxhead out of the final corner there. You were talking about it all race. He's been bang on for that, and that's well done from him. Oh man, what a race, Reese.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph, I have not seen a finish like that in a very long time. Only 100th of a second in between Coxhead and Costello. We need to see that again, and that's exactly what we're going to get. Look at this. Slow down, and that's the momentum of the slipstream right there for Chris Coxhead. It was a bumper in it.
I'd love to see a replay of Coxhead's on board there because I think Costello tried to cover him off on the inside, but Coxhead's exit was just way too good and got such a good run on him. And he's rightly so. He's doing some lovely burnouts. Fantastic job by him in that 208 Commodore. As we cut to the replay here, there's that little love tap from the back that we saw. Look at the crumpled rear bumper of Costello's Falcon there. So I wonder if he might have a little word to race control, but I think it's not going to go anywhere. But get a load of that exit. Gets a little bit squirrely in front from Costello. But Coxhead, man, just perfect exit. And look at this. Goes to the outside. It's covered. Wheezed.
Oh, yeah, there we go. It was that little bit of movement there from Reina Costello that sealed it for Coxhead. Just that little bit of wasted momentum trying to recover the car there for Reina Costello, but I think that was all fair. What a fantastic battle between those two. That is, in terms of this support category, I think that's the race of the season.
Yeah, and we've had some absolute bangers so far as well. So that's a tall order to get to. But yeah, what a race, Reese. And this track just always provides some great racing. As we go to the results, I'll let you run through the top 10, Reese.
Yep, well, you saw it there. 100th of a second. In favour of Chris Coxhead. Reina Costello finishes in second place, but he should take the... well, actually, Coxhead and Costello might be equal on round points. Not too sure. Regardless, Aidan Cale and Joe Mahoney rounding out the top four for a race on Oz. Great result for that team, with Haywood and Mason both getting into the top six there. They came at the cost of Dylan Gray, though, who finishes in 7th spot, and looks like only a couple of hundredths in it between himself and Mason there. Dion de Graaf comes home in 8th. Aaron Gilbert, brilliant recovery. Started from the back up to P9, and Troy Allen has a much better race than he had in race 1. Rounds out the top 10.
Yeah, what a race in the top 10. Henry King, we saw him have some issues later in the race, but finishes out in P11. Peter Pavlovich and Stephen Banks for Pacific Esports, rounding out for P12 and P13. Jesse McMenamin in P14 with Dan Mirko and Isaac Edwards, the Race on Oz teammates, P15 and 16. We saw Richard Mayer get in a bit of trouble again in that Sud Speed Commodore, unfortunately finishing P17. Dan Stevens in P18, Blake Fitzpatrick P19, and Lachlan Capel, of course, our fantastic safety car driver, not actually competing in this event.
Yeah, indeed. Top 20 for the safety car. Let's go. All right, it's time to have a chat to our top two from that race. First off, we'll go to Reina Costello. Man, what a round from you, Rainer, in one of your first races this season in the V8 support category. The car looked super quick in qualifying in race 1. Race 2, you had to work a bit harder. We don't seem to have Rainer Costello at the moment. We'll give him a moment to fix his microphone. And, oh, actually, it looks like we heard some sounds coming from his mic there. Do you have us, Rainer?
Yes, I do. Sorry.
All good, all good. So, yeah, I'll just repeat myself from earlier for convenience. Man, race 1 certainly was went your way 100%, but race 2, a bit more of a challenge.
Oh man, yeah, definitely didn't go my way in the second race, but I had so much fun. That battle in the second race was so awesome, and hopefully it gave you guys something cool to watch.
Oh yeah, it absolutely did. I think that was the best race we've had of the V8 season so far. Are we going to expect you to come back for future rounds? Because man, you are looking quick.
Oh, I'd say so. I signed up just because I really wanted to drive the legacy car again, and I'm getting back into the supercars side of iRacing. So yeah, definitely can expect me in future rounds, I'd say.
That is very good news indeed, Rainer. Well, with a win and a P2, you're at the very least in contention for the round win. So, you know, a win on debut in the V8 support category, certainly a fantastic performance from you. Is there anyone you'd like to thank for it?
I'd just like to thank Logitech G Evolution Racing team for being such a great team, and always being there for whenever I decide to jump on the sim and have a crack. So yeah, just thank those guys for all their support.
Lovely stuff. Rainer Costello, your race 1 winner from Interlagos. Race 2, meanwhile, went to Team Jinx Shifters' Chris Coxhead. What a fight that was from the exterior, Chris. How was it for you from inside the cockpit?
Hey, boys. Yeah, the heart rate's up. That was good fun. Crazy battle there with Rainer and Aiden. Did not think I'd be able to get the win, but yeah, it's hard with that toe down the straight.
Yeah, slipstream always very strong at Interlagos, but that's not all there was to it. I pointed out throughout the race that your exits from Junsao, that last proper left-hander, seemed to just be nailed to a point that no other driver could reach. Was that something in the setup?
Possibly the setup. Possibly this I don't know, in the race tonight it seems so easy to just send it in a little bit too hot, and then you're chasing the tail trying to get drive. So I was really conscious this race to make sure I was, you know, braking early enough and getting the car turned in. Otherwise, it just ruins the run. But yeah, it could be a bit of setup as well. The car felt planted. Bit of a setup change between 1 and 2, I think, helped. And it felt all right. It was good.
Well, Sonoma is the next round for the V8 support category. Going back to, I suppose, some very common ground for these cars. The NASCAR short layout of Sonoma is one of the most run in these cars over the years. Are you looking forward to that as much as we are?
Yeah, it's always good around Sonoma, jumping those curbs, and you know, the racing is always good because of the layout. So pretty keen to get over there and have a run.
Excellent stuff. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to before we let you go, Chris?
Oh, just the usuals, all the boys at Team Jinx Shifters, Henry, Jinx Shifters for the ongoing support. Yeah.
Lovely stuff. Chris Coxhead there, winner of race 2 by only 100th of a second. Well, Dean, that concludes proceedings for tonight. As we mentioned, we're going to Sonoma for the next round of V8SCOPS supports. I think both the GTC and the V8s should be a very good fit for this place.
Yeah, what a tricky circuit. Another one with a lot of elevation change as well. So it'll be really good to see if we can get another turnout like we did tonight. It'll be some great racing once again. What a fantastic track that is too. Big props to the guys doing the calendar this year. They've done a fantastic job.
Indeed, Jay jumps in to say my pleasure behind the scenes there. He helped put together the calendar for V8 Scops for this year. Well, you'll be able to catch that on the 2nd of August from 8 p.m. Australian Eastern. Yeah, it's a bit of a long wait for the next round, but I think the anticipation will just build. Well, we want to thank you all for tuning in for this night of V8 Scops support action. Big thanks to Proven Energy for their support being thrown behind the safety car, and of course to the crew at Aussie Online Gaming for administrating and setting up the servers for this series. Always appreciating their efforts behind the scenes. Here on SimSpeed TV, we say our goodbyes. I'm Reese Gardner, Dean Hunt with me in the comms box, and Jay Kennedy handling the stream and production behind the scenes. We're going to catch you next on Sunday for V8 Scops Round 7 at Interlagos.